So, in front of you is the Zebralight. That's the 600, and I will put links down below to Going Gear where I happen to get it from. There are certainly other websites to get your flashlights from. This has been a very requested review for many a days, as I've slipped up and kind of let you guys know what's going on. You recently saw it in my EDC video, and it is hands down kind of my favorite light for a long time. There's a couple downsides to it, and we'll get to that in a second. But this is the first light I've been running as an EDC that runs the higher output 18650s. This is something you're going to have to stay on top of. We've discussed in some of our high output lights. You know, you're certainly not. There's a size comparison there. Compared to standard AA, it's going to be a little bit bigger. But with that comes higher voltage, with that comes more battery power and longevity, and of course I don't have them all on top of my head here, but I will put the lumens in the runtime, probably just grab them off of their website. But you know, it is a very impressive light, and I wasn't sure I wanted something as big as an 18650, but it has served to be one of the better EDC lights I've ever run. Now, the only negative thing I've really come up with, you have to get used to the right angle. It is not a typical flashlight where the light comes out the end and you're holding it like this. You kind of have to hold it like you're spraying pepper spray, because the button is on the top. It is a digital switch, and we'll get into the modes in a second. It is also, there's not much other than the battery tube you guys saw. Here's another 18650 next to it. It's basically a battery tube with the LED emitter right on the end. So there's not much reflector in there. You're not going to get, you know, a huge throw on there, but because of the output on this thing, the turbo on this is 750 lumens, which is kind of ridiculous. It is one very surprising thing when you've got something this small and you grab it out of your pocket and you pull it out and you hit it on turbo. People are like, what the hell is that? And you know, sometimes you need that light. You know, I do live in a rural area. Obviously this was EDC'd all through Wildland Fire this year. This rode in my pocket inside my Nomex, and we'll get to some of its accessories here in a second. But I always have an EDC flashlight on me. One of the things we've talked about in some of the other videos that I've done of previous flashlights is I like to put them in my mouth, because, you know, I don't always carry a headlamp around with me for hands-free stuff. Often working in restaurants and other things, looking for keys, you know, groceries, you've got your hands full, but I still need a flashlight. I'll grab my EDC light and I'll put it in my mouth, and then I'll have both hands so that I can do whatever tasks it's at hand that requires me being hands-free. And you know, this really doesn't lend itself to that, because it is so big around and because it angles out this way. You basically have to kind of put it in your mouth this way and just kind of bite, and it's, you know, it's not really designed that way. There is a headband we'll get to in a second that kind of, you know, omits you having to put it in your mouth. Admittedly, I have a couple times, but not as frequently as some of the smaller lights like the X-Tar WK26, I believe, that we reviewed, where I put a little bit of rubber tape around there just to kind of protect my teeth, or the XR Meteor, or many of my other smaller EDC lights. One thing that makes this so versatile is it has a headband. And because it is not the hard plastic like a lot of you Phoenix guys are used to, the Phoenix band was, you know, made popular mostly by Nut and Fancy. I hadn't really heard of it outside the flashlight community much since he started using it, but certainly this is very small and light. This does have a strap that can go over it, over the top of the head. I just carried the actual band. This thing is small enough and light enough. You know, you basically just pull on the soft rubber and feed it through, and it will catch in these two grooves that are on here. As you can see, it sort of has a natural arc where when you put this on your head, it kind of supports it there. So you can kind of twist it up and down while it's on your head, and then your button's over here, or you can reverse it and put the button on this side. But because of that, it is extremely versatile. And so basically what I did was I tried to leave my main headlamp for wildland fire in my bag, in my line bag, so that if I ever needed it, it was there. I could put it on my helmet. But the problem is, most of the time, you guys will know that are in wildland fire or out camping, is you really kind of need something for around the camp and for camp chores, getting back from the truck, looking inside the trucks, under the trucks, in this, in your tent, taking care of your feet, cleaning boots. There's a number of things that you need hands-free, and so a lot of guys will run 2 headlamps, one for your tent basically and one for your line gear. Otherwise you tend to forget one's in camp and you needed it in your line gear. So this was in my back, basically wallet pocket, back right pocket, and I never noticed it was ever there. This thing is soft and flexible. You didn't realize that you were sitting on it. You don't even feel it in there. This thing is so small and so light. I do not do that in EDC. Maybe I have, maybe once or twice, but I don't make it a habit of keeping the head strap with me. Now this will be in whatever bag I'm EDC in, so it is accessible if I need it, but it was definitely EDC during fire. Let's just put it that way. Let's get into the light modes, and let's zoom out here. I will have photos and things like that, basically comparison. Got a number of flashlights that we're reviewing, so I will have probably a separate photo beam video that I'll link up here when that is up. But one of the things that impressed me about this is it has 3 main modes, and they're fairly simple to get to. One is you can just press and hold. That goes low, hold it down, medium, and into high, and then it'll basically just go back and forth. Low, hold it down, medium, high. Now we're in high. Now each mode, we're in low, so as the camera adjusts, you can see we're nice and low beam here. Let me zoom in. It's a nice low beam. Now each of those 3 modes has a secondary mode, and it will remember that. So while I'm in low, if I double tap it, it goes into low, which you can see barely even shows up with my overhead lights on, but there is a light. And you'll see the run times if you look at the information box. The run times on this low is ridiculous, but it's the same. So basically that will now become my low. If I go to medium, I can double click medium and get basically the high medium. I can hold it down, go low, medium, high. Now I'm in high mode, and I can actually go to the lower of the high mode if I don't need it. Now, if I go back and go into the very highest mode, and it remembers that. So when I cycle through into low, it's at low, low, medium's at medium, high, and high is at high, high. Now, certainly 750 lumens, obviously it's changing the camera. It's having a hard time kind of keeping up with what the camera's doing. But, we'll kind of point this on the wall here so you can kind of get an idea. I still have my overhead lights on. But, it's a pretty decent beam. Obviously, the camera's doing some weird things to it. The best features I think I found are just actual shortcut features. There is a way to go in and do a strobe and to change kind of the high settings, and that 750 lumens on high is only for a few minutes. And it will kick itself down to like 460 or something. But for those a few minutes when you're actually needing, that blinding light, be aware this will get hot. There is not enough cooling fins on this to run that high at 750 lumens. So it will get a little warm running on high. Certainly will. But Best features I found is one of the things that people hate is one of the flashlights that don't have a memory. So if, for heaven forbid, if you go into high directly and not a low mode, you're going to blind the absolute crap out of yourself, especially if you're in a camp situation or you want your night vision to be maintained and you don't want to completely blind yourself. So you have the 3 modes. If I just click it, it automatically goes into high. Automatically goes into high. Now click it off. If I press and hold it just for an extra second, instead of a quick click, it goes into low mode. And if I happen to have low set to low like we do right now, that is not going to blind you. Even, you know, a double click and go into the highest of the low, if I'm making any sense. You know, it's still nice that you don't blind yourself. You've got, excuse me, just enough working light so you can see around, and you didn't go into the high mode. You know, if I click it real quick, you're in high. If I click and hold just enough, it goes into the low mode. Now if I pressed and held any longer, it would start cycling through. So you have maybe a second, a 1-2 count before it starts cycling, but you get used to it very easily. And I really appreciate that UI, you know, the way the light is controlled, the way I can get just to low and just to high without having to, you know, some of the lights I have get a little bit complicated. You got to make sure the head's twisted, and this is done all on the switch. So again, I'll put in some photos, and I appreciate your time. Thanks for watching.